What's going on, everyone? Darkside Phil here with a special vlog because earlier this morning Sony held a large-scale press conference. All the gamers on the internet were super hyped to watch this live press conference, and they talked about basically three main topics: updates on the existing PS4, a new model of the existing PS4, and a totally new model of PS4 that was going to be above and beyond what currently existed. They gave pricing info, they gave release date info, and basically a lot of the rumors that have been all around the internet ever since, before E3 about the PS Neo and a new PS4 were finally kind of put to rest today with this press conference that Sony held. Now, rather than you go watch a 45-plus minute press conference, I'm going to summarize what happened at the press conference in this video and then give my kind of editorial take on exactly what I think about these announcements, all right? So first and foremost, the biggest announcement, the one that everyone wanted to know about: what is this new PlayStation 4 PS Neo? Is it going to have better graphics? Is it going to have a better processor? What's the deal? That was the question on everyone's mind pretty much all year, ever since it was rumored early 2016 that there would be a new PS4, because let's face it, both Microsoft and Sony have never really introduced a higher level, more powerful version of the same console during a console generation's life cycle. They've had other versions. For example, you had the PS3, but then the PS3 Slim, right? But you never had one that was more powerful released in the middle of a console's life cycle. So a lot of people were wondering, what does this mean? And so finally it was kind of settled today. The new console is called the PlayStation 4 Pro. It's not PS4 Neo, it's not PS Neo. That name has been scrapped. Officially, it's now being called the PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, you can look up the stats yourself, but just from eyeballing it, I could tell you the processor speed, give or take, could be said to be about double what the current PlayStation 4 has. I already see tech heads on the internet kind of debating it amongst themselves. It's double the... No, it's not really double the power. It's this, it's that. It's more powerful. Is it insanely overpowered compared to the current PS4? No. But is it insanely underpowered and underwhelming? Not necessarily either, okay? It also comes with a new graphics card, and the graphics card supposedly is going to add a lot more detail. It's going to help with issues like the frame rate issues that everyone has been seeing with the PS4. It's kind of funny. It's supposed to be the new generation of consoles. It's been out for 3 years. I play a game. I can't even play a game at 1080p 60 frames per second on my PS4. That's kind of an issue. So supposedly this new upgrade of the GPU and the graphics card combined are really supposed to push 1080p 60 frames per second visuals on a lot of games that have been underperforming as of late. In addition, the hard drive will be a 1 terabyte hard drive right from the get-go, so doubling the installed hard drive space of the previous PS4, which is a great thing in my opinion, because I've had a lot of issues with hard drive management this particular year, especially because I've gotten a lot of games on PS4 versus Xbox One. They all require a giant install, so makes sense, make the hard drive bigger. I don't understand why they started with a 500 gig hard drive to begin with. I always thought that that was too small. Now, let's talk some of the biggest controversy / revelations today that people weren't expecting and or finally got clarification on, okay? The PlayStation 4 Pro is compatible with all PlayStation 4 games, and moving forward, game developers are basically given dev kits for this version of the PlayStation 4 and said, if you wish to utilize the better hardware of the PS4 Pro, then go ahead and do it. Make your game run better on the PS4 Pro. But they made it abundantly clear there will not be any console exclusive games only for the Pro. Any game that's for PS4 is going to run on any model of the PS4. So if you own a PS4 and you have no desire to buy a new version right now, don't worry. All the upcoming games are going to run on your PS4, albeit they might run a little bit worse. Especially if it is a game that they've optimized for 60 frames per second on the Pro, it may run at a lower frame rate on the standard or original PS4, okay? 4K visuals. Let's talk a little bit about this because this is a little bit confusing for a lot of people today. According to Sony, the PS4 Pro will support 4K visuals. That means a much higher resolution than 1080p, which is the current kind of high-definition standard right now for video when it comes to video streaming and, watching something on a Blu-ray disc, okay? 4K is much stronger, way more pixels, but let's be honest here. I've been to, say, Best Buy, where they've got the 1080p TV and the 4K TV sitting right next to each other. Honestly, if I'm like a decent distance away from the TV, I see no difference. It's only if I walk up to the TV and I'm like squinting at it. Okay, now I see there's slightly more detail on this one than on this one. And honestly, when it comes to gaming, you have to wonder, how are game devs going to implement this with 4K? And that's, I think, what the big question on everyone's mind was today when they're presenting this new PlayStation that's going to have 4K capabilities. We're like, but the existing PlayStation 4 game devs can't get it right with 1080p and 60 frames per second. How do you expect them to do it with another PlayStation 4 with a giant jump in resolution, right? So basically what Sony explained was, listen, no, not every game that comes out for PS4 is going to have 4K compatibility, and we're certainly not forcing game developers to adapt 4K. That's completely within their own desire and range, but we're expecting that AAA studios are going to want to go that extra mile and make some amazing gameplay experiences. And then they went on to show some footage of Mass Effect Andromeda, which showed whoever this protagonist is in this game, which we don't know yet, kind of jetpacking around a certain area. And then they said, oh, there's going to be other games, like a new Spider-Man game that's going to support these new amazing visuals and things like that. So basically what they're saying is AAA games will probably have the support for 4K. Most games won't, but if you want to have that cutting edge of technology, and obviously if you have a 4K TV that can support it, which a lot of people do not right now, then you're going to want to go for the PS4 Pro. Okay, so that kind of clarified. Good, it's not just a 4K gaming console or whatever. It's going to have the option if some game developers want to make games in 4K, but most games probably will not run in it. But the good news is, if you've kind of been disappointed with the performance of your existing PS4 and you upgrade to the Pro, you're supposed to get better visuals even at 1080p resolution, you know, higher frame rate and maybe some better quality, which we haven't gotten out of a lot of these games. They've been chugging along at 900p and barely 30 frames per second. I mean, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which I just finished playing, comes to mind, where parts of the game were like choppy as hell. What is going on? It's supposed to be the next gen of consoles, and you can't even run a game at like the standard, what do they call it? It's like the golden standard for HD. They can't even run it at that right now. Pretty ridiculous, right? So, that's one thing. Now, one of the biggest things that was announced that was a surprise was the pricing and a huge omission in the PlayStation 4 Pro model, okay? The pricing of the model is $399 US, the same exact price that the PlayStation 4 launched at 3 years ago in November of 2013. So you might be saying, wow, it's the same cost of what you would have bought before, but it's better. There's better hardware inside, a bigger hard drive, right? What's the minus here? Well, they did kind of come out. They didn't blatantly say it, but after the press conference, it was kind of, just admitted. The PlayStation 4 Pro will not have a 4K resolution Blu-ray player. So I want you to think back way back when now. The launch of the PlayStation 3. Remember when it was announced that it was priced at $599 US and everyone's jaws went, whoa, what? That's insanely expensive. But it was justified with the fact that the PlayStation 3 had things in it that made it have more intrinsic value. It had Bluetooth, so you could use a wireless Bluetooth headset with it while other consoles weren't using Bluetooth technology yet, right? It had certain things. The one big thing that was the big thing for PS3 was it had a Blu-ray player. Now, this was a time when Blu-ray players were just coming into prominence. HD video was just coming into prominence at the launch of the PS3. So you're saying, okay, so it's $600 for the PS3, but I'm getting a Blu-ray player where I otherwise would have had to spend $200-300 to get a Blu-ray player as a standalone. So really, I'm paying $300 for a Blu-ray player and $300 for a game console. Now it justifies the price of the console, okay? The PlayStation 4 Pro does not have a 4K Blu-ray player. So if you were hoping to buy it, oops, smacked my mic. If you were hoping to buy it, just like you bought the PS3 and you got a cool next generation, movie player, you're not going to get that with the PS4 Pro. It's not included, and I think that's a major reason why the price point is $399. If they had included a 4K Blu-ray player, it probably would have went boop and shot up to probably around $600 or more as a price tag. So, there's positives and there's negatives to the PS4 Pro. Now, let's talk the second big announcement of the press conference, which was a new model of the PS4. In fact, they announced the current model of the PS4 is basically going to be discontinued shortly. They're not going to be manufacturing any more standard model PS4s. Instead, they're going to be manufacturing the new model called the PS4 Slim. Very similar to the move Sony made with the PS3 Slim. They stopped manufacturing the big chunky ones and started making the slimmer ones. So, what's the deal with the PS4 Slim? Is it more powerful? No. Darn, right? Ah, man, if we could have got the 1080p 60 frames per second from this thing, it would have been a no-brainer to buy one. No. Does it have any new features? Well, yes and no. First of all, it has a terabyte hard drive. So again, it's like Sony is realizing their big gaffe with the PS4 only having a 500 gigabyte hard drive. The PS4 Slim will have a 1 terabyte hard drive inside of it, okay? But the big thing that they kind of push, which I don't understand why this is a big deal, I really don't, HDR. Now, they said this HDR will be both on the PS4 Slim and on the PS4 Pro. And then there's another announcement coming next week. This is the third announcement of the press conference. Even your regular PS4, if you own one at home, is getting HDR. It's going to be patched into it. Now, I'm sure that 95% of the people watching or on the internet are like, oh, HDR sounds good, having no idea what the hell HDR is. So allow me to explain. I actually did a little bit of research to figure out myself because I wanted to make sure that my understanding of it was correct. HDR has to do with dynamic range. If you don't know what that means, it has to do with the brightness of your brights and the darkness of your darks in your color scheme on your graphics that are being displayed, okay? Essentially what this means is that there's going to be a wider range of colors on PlayStation 4 than there were previously. So when you're playing a game where you're in a dark cave, you're going to see more. It's going to be like, wow, really dark areas, but you're going to see a contrast to the lighter areas, while previously maybe you didn't have that capability. Now, it needs to be said, your television has to be a pretty good one to support current HDR standards. There's actually two types. I think one's Dolby and one's another company like HDC10 or something like that. But anyway, it's not announced which one they're supporting or anything like that. I know I'm getting super technical now. You don't need to know about that. The bottom line is HDR is coming to every PlayStation 4. So you don't need to buy the Slim or the Pro to get it. It's coming to every PlayStation 4, but your TV might not even support it, and good luck figuring it out until it's there. You enable it, and then you see if your TV looks any different, okay? So in all actuality, the announcement of HDR support is kind of a non-announcement. I mean, yeah, okay, it'll look slightly better for color levels, but that's not a big announcement to me, but that was like a focus of their press conference, which I don't understand, okay? So, essentially what the press conference announcement was about was to say, PS4's done, the original model is gone, you can either now buy the PS4 Slim for the price tag of $300 US, so that's good, that's around the price point of the current PS4 of what they're selling it in bundles and stuff, and that comes with the 1 terabyte hard drive, okay, or you can get the PS4 Pro for $399, so an extra $100, and you'll get better resolution. Hopefully most games will be able to run 1080p 60 frames per second on it, and the possibility, the kind of the future proofing that if game developers want to make their games in better visual quality such as 4K, they can do it with the hardware inside of the PS4, alright? The big release date, November 10th, 2016. So on November 10th, these are coming out, and they actually already announced, they said if you're going to play Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, that game is supposed to have improved visuals on the PS4 Pro. If you want to play, I'm trying to remember the other game, because they mentioned 2 or 3 major games. Crap. I think they said that Uncharted 4 is going to get patched, so that it'll have better visuals on the PS4 Pro. And they did mention one other one, okay? But basically they're saying nothing, it's only like maybe 5 or 6 games total that will even have this capability within this year, but it'll be in the hands of the developers moving forward, alright? So, how did the internet take this news? I saw people that were super fanboying for Sony. Oh my god, this is a great announcement. I can't wait to get my PS4 Pro and 4K gaming and better finally 1080p 60 frames per second that we've always wanted. And then I saw people on the complete polar opposite saying nothing that they've really said in this press conference has convinced me to buy the PS4 Pro. I currently don't have a 4K TV, and I don't even know anyone who owns one around me. It doesn't seem like it's become the standard of technology yet in a lot of places, unless you're like really affluent and you just like to be one of those people who buys the future tech early, an early adopter who drops tons of money to get it. And let's be honest here, if you even go to like a tech store, right? The 4K movie selections are very slim pickings right now. You cannot get many 4K movies, maybe a few hundred, maybe there's 1,000 total out of how many, tens of thousands of movies that exist. So it's not like it's become mainstream yet. It's almost as if, Sony is like, we want to future-proof our console, but did you actually do research to find out that we would be at that level yet? You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy of something like this where you're jumping the gun on a technology level, and I almost feel like Sony is. Like, they thought, or they think, that in the next year, there's going to be this giant market for 4K gaming, right? Almost like, here's a good analogy. 3D televisions and 3D gaming. Do you remember, I'd say probably about 6-7 years ago, all of a sudden everything was talking about 3D. Every TV you went to buy at the store had to have the 3D technology integrated into it, right? And every game, right? So, we're going to have 3D capability. There's a 3D mode in the menu. You could play it in 3D on your TV and all of that. Within a year, it fizzled out and died. Like, it became so mainstream, everyone had it in their TV and no one uses it. It's just a pain in the ass, and it was kind of like a fad. 4K resolution doesn't look that much better than 1080p to the naked human eye. There may be some situations where if a game dev puts tons of extra time and effort into the development of their game, just for the 4K version, maybe it will look amazing. But let's be real here. We know the mainstream gamer doesn't own a 4K TV yet. That could change in the next 3 to 4 years, but that's my point. In 3 to 4 years, you'd expect the PlayStation 5 will be coming out. So why do we need a PS4 Pro right now? It kind of is just like mind-boggling. I don't understand. What is the purpose of this console? It's not a 4K movie player, so that was out. If that was a 4K movie player, a lot of people probably would have considered buying it because, hey, I got a 4K movie player now. I don't have to go buy a standalone or whatever. And by the way, it plays better games that I was going to play anyway on my PS4, but that's out the window. And I don't get it. I'm just kind of lost. I don't see any motivation for someone who owns a functioning PlayStation 4 to buy the PS4 Pro unless they've been so disappointed with the graphical performance of games over the past few years, or they're rich and they already bought a high-end, top-of-the-line 4K television that could implement a 4K gaming experience off of the PlayStation 4. And let's be honest here, how many people is that? That's probably going to be like, what, 5-10% of the market tops? So what is Sony going for with this console? It's kind of confusing, all right? On the flip side of this whole situation, if you don't own a PlayStation 4 right now, this is amazing news. Now is the time. You could $300, you get the same gameplay experience as everyone else has been having for 3 years, or if you splurge for an extra $100, you may actually get improved visuals from what most people have been experiencing over the past 3 years, because you might get the full 1080p 60 frames per second that everyone's been craving, right? Absolutely craving for the past 3 years off of the PlayStation 4 and not really getting in a lot of situations. So if a newcomer stepping up to the plate for the first time, oh man, this holiday season, you're going to get any model of PS4 you buy is going to be a great value for you and compared to what we've had for the past several years. But for those who already have it, it's kind of like, meh, meh. What's the big deal here with this announcement? It's almost like a non-announcement. Why does this even exist, and why did Sony make another console when they could have just easily waited another 3 years, make PS5 fully 4K compatible? It's very confusing. And again, for the first time that Sony's ever done this in the middle of the life cycle of a console, it's kind of baffling and leaving everyone scratching their heads as to what exactly we're supposed to get excited for. Now, I have two observations of my own that I would like to make on the whole situation, all right? And I'll give you my kind of thought pattern as to if I'm going to get a PS4 Pro or not. First of all, when I bought my PS4 3 years ago, when I bought my Xbox One, for that matter, 3 years ago, we were promised the next generation of gaming, that these gaming consoles weren't supposed to be so far separated from gaming PCs anymore. We were promised the highest quality visuals, improved frame rates, bigger worlds, more interactivity because of the processing power of those consoles. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 years later, I hate to say it, they did not live up to those promises, and neither the Xbox One nor the PlayStation 4 have shown any kind of significantly huge jump over what was presented on the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3. It's just that simple. most games that come out for these consoles are not 1080p. They end up being slightly better than the resolution that was on the last gen, right? It used to be 720p. Now it's 800 or 900p because they have to scale it down because they can't handle above 720p for whatever reason. They just can't handle it. The frame rates, are you kidding me? Frame rates on these games have been very inconsistent, with a few exceptions of games like the Call of Duty franchise and a few pretty good first-person shooters this past year that I can think of. I had like Doom had a variable frame rate that made it incredibly playable, even though it wasn't full 60 frames per second during the times when it mattered. It usually was. You know, a lot of games just never even bought. Uncharted 4, the campaign, they're like, whatever, 30 frames per second. We don't even care. Just 30 frames. We never gave you 60 frame per second campaign before. Why are we going to give it to you now? 30 frames per second, man. And it's kind of like, this is supposed to be the flagship title for Sony, and they can't make it run at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 4. Like, that's a joke. You know what I mean? And it's funny because the multiplayer does. So the capability was there. They just didn't put in the time and effort to make the campaign run at it. You know what I mean? And it's like, we all bought into the hype 3 years ago. We're going to get the next gen of consoles, and we're going to have the best possible console gaming experience, and it hasn't been. It really hasn't been. In my opinion, it's been kind of a letdown, because you're promised the world, and you couldn't even get the standard. 1080p 60 frames per second has been the gaming standard for the greater part of 10 years. PC gamers, are you kidding me? PC gamers have had that forever. Over 10 years. Why can't consoles catch up? So, it is disappointing. So now it's kind of like, oh, the PS4 Pro, you can finally get what we promised you 3 years ago if you give us $400 more. That's almost what I feel like is happening here. Well, we couldn't live up to our promises 3 years ago. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing. Well, it's 2016 now. Now we can give you a better console for a cheaper price because hardware costs have dropped. So give us another $400 and we'll give you a console of what we promised 3 years ago. It's almost like a slap in the face to gamers, because we were promised to and lied to, basically, through people's teeth. You know, developers and Sony did not work together to make the best gameplay experience possible for everyone. Neither did Xbox. They're both guilty. I just want to make that clear. It's not just Sony or Microsoft I'm hating on. Both parties were very guilty of this, all right? Now, my second observation, if you're not aware of this, this is for even more niche kind of deal. All right, if you're planning on getting PlayStation VR, which I am, I actually have it pre-ordered at Best Buy. It's supposed to arrive here on launch day sometime in mid-October, okay? Actually, wow, it's only a little bit over a month from now, which is pretty crazy. Now I'm thinking about it. Holy shit, in a little bit more than a month, I'll be doing PSVR. It's kind of a realization for me. If you're getting PlayStation VR, supposedly, if you get the PS4 Pro, excuse me, it will be better in conjunction with the PSVR. Supposedly, better frame rates, better overall performance, less choppiness, and maybe even some better resolution in the graphics, better overall experience with the PSVR on the PS4 Pro than the regular PS4, okay? So that kind of almost, because I'm getting the PSVR, I am, and I know there's games coming up like Resident Evil 7 and stuff that are going to support it. I'm kind of leaning towards maybe I should get a PS4 Pro, simply because now I could do a direct comparison, right? I could play these games on the regular PS4 and PS4 Pro with PSVR and compare them and say, wow, it really is a better experience here versus here, and, you know, here's what you benefit from it. Now, how many people, honestly, are so crazy for VR right now that they're going to go buy a new console for it? You know what I mean? Like, how many people? I mean, me, if I were to get the PS4 Plus, or excuse me, the PS4 Pro, it's a business expense, right? It's a business expense that I can write off my taxes. Yes, I have to drop the $400, but more than likely with the videos that I'll make of, here's the improved graphics versus the old graphics. Here's a comparison of PSVR on both consoles. With that, I can do, right? I probably make up the cost of it. But how many gamers out there, now we're going to drop the ton of money for the PSVR, $400 more for the PS4 Pro. It's not, and then if you want to get the 4K experience, now you got to buy a 4K TV if you don't have it. Who's going to start dropping, you know, thousands of dollars for all this equipment? It's just out of control. And then I do have to say this too. I actually liked the name PlayStation 4 Neo better than PlayStation 4 Pro, because when you say Pro, right, it makes it sound professional. oh, so if you're professional, if you're actually a good gamer and you're serious about your gaming, you're going to drop $400 more on this new version of the console. Whether necessarily you're going to get as much out of it that you want or not, doesn't really matter. That's the console for pros. Everyone else is just a noob. Everyone else isn't serious. They're just little kiddies who just come home to play games after school, and they're never going to be good at games. They're not serious gamers, right? They got the old PS4. That PS4 Slim, that thing's dumb. No, man, we got to get the Pro. Like, that name is elitist. I hate it when they have names like that. That's so dumb. I thought we were going away from that kind of elitist mentality when it came to games and consoles, and now all of a sudden Sony's, like, changed the name from something that was generic like Neo. No one's going to get, you know, pissed off at Neo, besides maybe Keanu Reeves. He's the only person. Everyone else, no one's going to give a shit. But all of a sudden now it's Pro, and now, you know, I don't like that. It's going to put, like, undue pressure on people who maybe wouldn't have bought it. Man, well, I like to be at the cutting edge of technology, and all my friends are getting the Pro now. I got to be the Pro to stay online with them, or else, you know, I'm just not in with the cool kids because I'm not Pro anymore. Versus, oh, you know, the Neo, it's not like a status name. And I don't like the name. I just don't. It pisses me off. It might be a nitpick, but that pisses me off. I like the Neo better. So overall, today's press conference from Sony was kind of meh. If anything, it left more kind of questions about why is there a mid-generation upgrade of hardware than anything else. If you're going to have a new console in the PS4, make a new console that can handle a graphical jump so that it justifies a $400 price tag 3 years ago. Don't put out a subpar console that game developers cannot develop for, and now 3 years later, oh, now we're finally putting out the hardware we should have 3 years ago, and you're going to get that 1080p, 60 frames per second experience we promised then. No, that's bullshit. That's bait and switch, and that's bad customer support right there, in my opinion. But it is great news for those who don't have a PS4, because no matter what you buy now, you're going to get something better and a better value for your buck, so I could definitely see that. But for me, someone like me, who does YouTube for a living and covers games for a living, I'm confused. Do I want the PS4 Pro or not? I mean, if some games are going to perform better, and by the way, I record at 1080p and 60 frames per second, and I stream at that resolution quality, so if some games immediately are going to look better because I'm using the Pro, I think that's a cool thing, okay? If my PSVR, when I get it, if I use it with the Pro, it's going to have a better overall experience, I think that's a cool thing. I'm probably not going to utilize the 4K gaming, because guess what? I don't have a 4K TV, and I'm not planning on buying a 4K TV this year. I was already thinking about replacing my television maybe sometime middle to later 2017. I thought that would be a good time frame to do it. So I'm not going to jump in and buy a new TV early on just because maybe 1 or 2 games in the next several months might support 4K resolution on the PS4 Pro. So will I get, if I buy this Pro, will I get $400 of quality out of it by early adopting? And it's funny because the other thing is you can only pre-order it right now. I looked online earlier, only at GameStop. And if you pre-order at GameStop online, they ship it on the 10th. They don't guarantee you'll get it. So everyone else goes to the store and buys theirs on the 10th. You get it shipped, and it might not come till the next week, because you're like, what was the point, right? So if anything, I recommend if you want to get a PS4 Pro, you go to a brick and mortar store where they're going to guarantee you can actually get it on launch day, and I would pre-order it there, all right? So I don't know. Right now I'm kind of on the fence. I really am on the fence about this. Another $400 for a piece of hardware. Let me know what you think. What do you think about Sony's press conference? What did you think about the announcement? Are you thinking you're getting the Pro? Are you thinking you're getting a Slim? Do you not have a PS4 and now you're happy because of this announcement? Share your thoughts in the comments of this video. Let's get a discussion going. But ultimately, my reaction is kind of meh and confusion. I don't know what I should do. Let me know, should I get a Pro? Do you think it would make any sense? All right? That's it, everyone. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you later.